Egypt in the 1950s claimed the Sudan as part of Egypt. Today, Egypt has no say in the Sudan, has no say on Darfur. Egypt is not the great power it used to be. Syria, people say, is still very important in Lebanon. True. But Syria is important in Lebanon as Iran's second fiddle, not in Syria's own right. Iraq is Iraq, falling apart, maybe. A mess. Saudi Arabia is a very wealthy country, people will tell you. And sure it is. But Israel, in terms of GDP per capita, is wealthier than Saudi Arabia. You may not know that, but it's true. Israel's GDP per capita is over $20,000. Saudi Arabia's GDP per capita, when oil prices were $147 a barrel, was $17,000. Now that oil prices are less than 40 or around about 40, their GDP has probably declined. So they are not even as wealthy as they used to be, not because they don't have money, but because their population, like other places in the Middle East, is going through the roof. Saudi population has increased 3 times in the last 25, 30 years. Iran, on the other hand, is this great regional power. And a great regional power with regional influence, the likes of which we have never seen in the modern era. Partly to do with the failed American policy in Iraq. The United States, by crushing Iraq, has not done anybody any favors, other than doing Iran a favor. Crushing Iraq removed the Arab gatekeeper from the Arab East. Saddam was an evil man. But Saddam's Iraq kept Iran out of our business. The crushing of Iraq has opened the gates of the Arab East to Iranian influence like we have never seen before. Iraq is now a Shiite Muslim-dominated state, and the Shiite Muslims are the co-religionists of the Iranians, who are also Shiites. That doesn't mean that the Iraqis will do everything the Iranians want. It doesn't turn Iraq into an Iranian province. But Iran has more influence in Iraq today than it has ever had in the modern era. Then you have the Shiites of Lebanon, who are Hezbollah. They are about to take Lebanon over. It's just a matter of time. Lebanon will be the second Shiite Arab state after Iraq. Until the war in Iraq, there were no Shiite Arab states. All the 22 Arab states were Sunni Muslim. Sunni, like most of the Arabs are. Lebanon will be a Shiite state soon, simply because of the numbers there. Nothing to do with Israel, and nothing to do with America's war in Iraq. Simply democracy. Because the Shiites will be the largest group in Lebanon, and will take Lebanon over. And Iran's nuclear ambition. And what is it exactly that Israel can do about Iran's nuclear ambition? This is, you will hear repeatedly now in the coalition talks, that Netanyahu will mention, as will other spokespersons of the government that is about to be formed, will mention that these are critical times for Israel. And most of the time when they say that these are critical times for Israel, they mean the Iranian question. And the Iranian question poses for Israel very serious dilemmas. We have set the Iranians back twice. Once in Gaza, and once in Lebanon, even though Lebanon, when the war was fought, seemed to be a flop and was harshly criticized in Israel. It was certainly carried out far less successfully than the war in Gaza. But if you look at Hezbollah's behavior in the last 2.5 years, they haven't fired anything across the border. And apparently the lessons of Lebanon have been taken seriously by Hezbollah. In the recent war in Gaza, the Gazans begged Hezbollah to participate, and Hezbollah refused to do so. Some Katyusha rockets were fired from Lebanon, but if you noticed, Hezbollah immediately denied it wasn't them. Now, if you remember, in the good old days of Palestinian organizations that used to carry out operations against Israel, different Palestinian organizations would claim responsibility for the same action. Now, Hezbollah is not only not claiming responsibility, but disclaiming responsibility. Deterrence works. The war in Gaza was obviously about deterrence too. And sure, there will be those who will say, in Gaza, deterrence is not working. They are still firing rockets, it's not working. I beg to differ. I really do not think that Hamas has an appetite for another war with Israel. I don't think the people in Gaza have an appetite for another war with Israel. And the rockets that are being fired every now and then in the last few weeks are part of the negotiating process for a deal. A deal that will relate to a long-term ceasefire of 12 to 18 months, so Hamas says. And the timetable here is meaningless from the Israeli point of view. Hamas is not in a position to set a timetable to Israel. They will not tell us that it's 12 months or 18 months and they will resume the war after 12 or 18 months. If they resume the war, Israel will obviously retaliate. The 12 and the 18 months are not directed to Israel. That is directed to Hamas's own constituency. They are saying to their own people, we have not stopped the struggle. Because if there is an unlimited